Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Negotiation. And today I'm speaking with Stephen Drummond, owner-operator of Campaign Coach China. We're talking about working and living in China's heavily monitored internet ecosystem, market complexities driving brands to reboot tried, true, and timeless brand creative strategies, and why foreign brands must work harder now that the cachet of being foreign is quickly evaporating. Stephen, what is your favorite Chinese company and why?
I think it's Maotai, which is a famous brand of Baijiu rice wine.
Yeah.
And I think that they have shown that you can have super premium Chinese brands steeped in culture, always justifies its price premium. It just has such a rich heritage. So often Chinese brands are derided. But if you look deeper into Chinese culture, there are these brands, and they do extremely well and command big price premiums.
Home to over 4 billion people, the Asia-Pacific region boasts one of the most powerful consumer markets on the planet. Not only is it home to half the world's under 30 population, but it's also home to more than half the world's internet users. It's a market no globally minded brand should ignore, but entering markets like China is no easy task. Just ask the likes of Microsoft, Google, Uber, and Facebook. Times are changing, and with the right partners, doors are slowly opening as more and more companies find success expanding into the markets of the Middle Kingdom. I myself spent 8 years in China, mostly as a venture capitalist, helping early-stage tech companies enter the Asia-Pacific market successfully. This show is dedicated to uncovering and examining successful China entry and growth strategies by interviewing the people behind those success stories. My name is Todd Embley, and welcome to The Negotiation, brought to you by WPIC Marketing and Technologies.
Stephen, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could come on. I really appreciate your time.
Great to be here.
So you've worked at some blue blood advertising shops with the JWT, Y&R, etc. Could you talk just a little bit about your background and how you ended up in that line of work?
I think I fancied doing the idea of advertising since my mid-teens, perhaps watching too many episodes of Bewitched and so forth. I did my business marketing degree in my home city in Adelaide. I was lucky Y&R offered a graduate traineeship to a prize-winning student such as myself, which landed me an entry-level job in the media department in the 1980s. I was very lucky to get in. It wasn't that unusual for Australians to head up to Asia in the mid-90s.
Sure.
But Shanghai was an unusual choice in those days, but it kind of appealed to the Lonely Planet style adventure that I was looking for.
Sure.
More than a Singapore when I was that age. And I was lucky that JWT Shanghai was looking for a planning director. So I had it was that perfect combination of the big brand of JWT, but then what was then the extremely exotic background of Shanghai and China. So, back then it was about the adventure and riding bicycles and the exotic market. But and then business got bigger, so it became more of a grown-up choice over time.
For sure. Okay, so where are you sitting right now as we record this?
I'm sitting in Shanghai in Jing'an district. In my WeWork office.
In the WeWork, yeah. And it's funny, I left Shanghai just as the WeWorks were starting to take over. Do you know how many WeWorks in Shanghai now?
There are 50 now.
50. 50.
50.
Exactly. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. I've been gone 3 years. Yeah. When I left, I think there was about 3 in 2016.
It's just taken off, and it's catering to all sorts of people, from people such as myself, more independent operators, to small, medium-sized companies, 10, 15 people. But they're also doing a lot of sort of white labeling management. I'm seeing more of that.
How is internet and the use of VPNs? How much does that affect the ability to do business, do you think?
I mean, look, the reality is you just become acclimatized to it if you work here, and you get a big shock when you leave the country and everything works without a VPN. Yeah, it's something you get used to. The Chinese digital world, obviously some connections with the outside world can be frustrating. But on the other hand, there are amazing things happening. Every expat here has readily adopted WeChat and WeChat payments, and the local way of working, There are local versions of
Didi and
Uber, Didi, which is great because they have English language versions. There are a lot of positives that can sometimes outweigh a few of the frustrations.
You are the owner-operator of Campaign Coach China, which I said off the top of the show, and I just want you to maybe explain to people what that is, what you do.
Sure. Well, after 32 years in the industry, most of which on the agency side as a strategy planner or agency.
Because you started when you were 5.
Management. Yeah, that's right.
So you're not nearly that old.
And I also spent about 5 years on the client side at Coca-Cola. So at my vintage, it's inevitable that you got to try the next thing, which is be a consultant.
Yeah.
And so I suppose I'm filling a small gap when someone needs someone who's worked on both sides of the fence. I've been working with agencies. I've been working direct with clients, and I've on all sorts of projects. Which tend to be ad hoc because of the way businesses are structured. They sometimes need additional help.
Yeah, for sure.
And I've also recently been conducting a lot of training. Training is something I'm really, hoping to develop more of. I've recently ran a 2-day workshop, brand and creative strategy boot camp for senior local clients, and through Food and Beverage Innovation Forum. And it's fantastic, the response, because the complexity of the market these days, and the desire for local brands to actually improve themselves, such that there is a real need for kind of rebooting some of the basic strategic planning tools and concepts, which are
for the local
timeless.
companies.
Timeless, absolutely. So, there are food and beverage mainly, but including Xiaomi's and Waluji's and a whole mix of local companies. I had about 40 CMOs and a few CEOs, learning about branding and brand building. Like I said, the timeless principles behind that, because now more than ever, this is something I passionately believe in, and it's especially important in China, when everything is e-commerce based, when everything is tactical, and so much in China is reliant upon borrowed interest from celebrities or special events.
Right.
There really is a need to, and local companies are recognizing this, there really is a need to actually work out, hang on, we can't just piggyback or rely on borrowed interest. We need to develop our own brand and our own brand identity. How the hell do we do that? So I take them through a structured series of modules that really are very much building blocks of good strategy and smart strategy.
I want 100% clarity. That is for local Chinese companies.
Well, I have been doing it for agencies, the international agencies. I've been doing it for local companies. If it's big multinational agency companies, Unilevers or P&Gs probably have their own training programs, and they're probably very good at that. And
but you bring a cross-cultural component to it?
Yes. So, if I'm talking to food and beverage people, they're obviously interested in the fact that I worked for Coca-Cola, so
Sure.
that they want to get some inspiration from that experience. But, with I can see the same thing with financial services and with the automotive market here. Yeah, there's still a big desire from the local side to learn about international standards in developing brands.
I have found that a lot of companies, local Chinese companies, they're excellent at manufacturing, right? Manufacturing, distribution, all the tactical and operational. Right. And so they're really, really, really strong on all of that. But I think when they need to start thinking cross-border, when they start to think about brand and brand loyalty, now it becomes about experiential.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's even more fundamental than that. I agree with what you're saying, but I think local brands, as you said, have done an excellent job on improving their product quality and their basic perception as delivering a reasonable product, but they're still struggling conceptually with the idea of brand and what a brand means and how to develop that. Like I said, the default thing has been to go for borrowed interest, usually a celebrity, but
like an influencer marketing play.
Well, influencer marketing or big celebrity. If you're talking about larger companies, it's literally the same bucket of 50 celebrities that are shared around almost all the brands in China. I mean, it's a big problem that they do have, and they're increasingly recognizing it, that they can't rely on that. Having celebrities is great. I just think the problem in China is brands here rush to the tactical. And I would consider which celebrity is right for my brand to be a tactical choice. It's an executional thing. It's not a strategic thing.
Yeah.
That kind of exposes the gap in understanding and the opportunity for local brands to improve. And look, let's face it, it's a natural, organic evolution that bigger brands in China are going through. First they had to fix the product side of things, and for the most part they have. I think now they're getting awareness, and they're learning over time. Mm-hmm. So it's obviously there's a priority. You get the product right, and you get basic trust levels, and then you can start to develop a genuine brand with powerful implicit emotional values. That's something that most companies here are still struggling with.
I want to ask if you could think back over the last 5 or 10 years, because I know you've been there over 20, but over the last 5, 10 years even, or even if you want to go back 15, to draw out and look for some of the things that you can point to that show specifically this evolution, how they have grown up, how has business in China changed over the last 5 or 10 years, anything that we can specifically point to, then potentially even be able to extrapolate off of for those that are kind of looking forward and want to have an idea of it, an understanding of where have we come from in the business environment of China.
Sure. Look, one of the most fundamental changes in the last decade or decades has been the grey area now that exists between foreign brand cachet and local brands. Mm. Yeah, it used to be a giant chasm. I mean, I'm talking whether it was Lux bar soap or toothpaste, Colgate toothpaste, whatever. Foreign brands used to be a big deal. Local brands all used to be, cheap and cheerful. You'd still buy local brands because they were accessible. Foreign brands are all expensive and had some status. You've now got this grey area, which is the foreign brands have actually come down in price and made themselves more relevant and accessible culturally and in price terms. Local brands have upped their game in improving product quality and their overall marketing standards. They may not be there yet in terms of fully developed brands, but they've improved.
Yeah.
But you've also got the big area now where you've got, prestige brands, a lot of Mercedes models or BMW models are built in China. You have a situation where you've got some big brands, a big competitor of Quaker Oats is Sea Mild. And everyone knows that Sea Mild is a local brand, but the product's got a big kangaroo on it because all the ingredients come from Australia. And the same with a few. So there's this whole, I worked out once there are 6 different categories of different cross-ownership, local brands owning foreign ingredient sourcing, or So to the consumer now, it's just become less of an issue unless it's in high-end luxury. Yeah, so you basically have a situation now in China where that's been one of the biggest dynamics that foreign brands used to rely upon.
I was going to say that. I mean, now they have to work harder.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You cannot rely on any sort of real foreign brand cachet. Now, it depends by category. Obviously, if you're talking wine, you're looking for something with French or Australian provenance as a quality reassurance, or for luxury brands. But apart from that, when you're talking about general FMCG brands, it's just become a case that the locals are matching, if not outdoing, the international brands,
right?
And they can also get things like better distribution,
sure.
which is still 101 marketing in China. Forget the advertising, get your distribution sorted before you even think about anything else.
No, 100%. Yeah.
So it's much more of a level playing field. It's category by category too. You can talk about, household paint, but every category here has got its own story. And household paint in China, the local brands used to be dangerous. They were full of lead and so obviously baby milk powder and dairy has got a different story. But you talk about other categories, and people they can't see any particular value in being a foreign brand.
Right.
Toothpaste is a big one. Chinese toothpaste didn't have fluoride in it until about 1997. So that disproves the idea that fluoride was a communist plot. There you go. But now Colgate and Crest came in on a huge wave because it's all health and linked to the child, and they were powerhouse brands in the late 90s, early 2000s. But soon the locals picked up their act, and now I think the leading toothpaste brands are local brands with Chinese traditional herbs.
We just talked about the last, the evolution. Do you care to prognosticate about the next 5?
The struggle ahead is brand building in the digital e-commerce age. That's the struggle.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see through my training programs a lot of recognition that this is an issue. And
where does brand building start?
Interesting thing is I'm getting a lot more interest and having a lot more conversations with people on the packaging side as well. Just big design houses, because at the end of the day, while packaging used to be a poor cousin of the big advertising.
Yeah.
I think even now it's one of the few opportunities to see the face of a brand. Because in an e-commerce landscape, while people are all excited about it, and rightly so, about the possibilities with that, the reality is the e-commerce landscape is even more crowded than a giant hypermarket.
Right.
Your packaging face, whether it's in offline or online, is one of the few areas where you can show your distinctive brand assets. So, look, it's a big struggle. People are working out also whether to chase short-term tactical opportunities, or should they start to balance that out with brand building activities. I don't personally think that there should be a hard line between those two things, but if you look at the merchandising calendar of a big company in China, it's built around seasons, special holidays, special events, and special retail events. Like Singles Days and so forth.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And which is great, and I think it's mandatory that they do that. But at the other hand, it is in effect all borrowed interest, and everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So these are the struggles ahead. The optimistic side is, like I said, yes, I'm seeing a bit of a shift away. I'm seeing more multinationals and more in China start to drift away and say, look, for us, it used to be about the long game. It used to be about building brand. And one day, in 20 years' time, we will make a profit. It'll be fantastic. They've given up on that. The big multinationals say, forget that. Let's get some profit in now. You're starting to see some wavering on the side of the multinationals about the longer term potential for China increasing. They're tired of taking losses in China for the big maybe that will be huge in 20 years' time.
Sure, it's a risk.
That level of patience is gone.
One final question: what is your best piece of advice to our listeners, to companies that are looking to come over to China?
Firstly, I think you need to find very smart local people who can give you the inside running. But quite literally, I mean, almost like a China muse. You need that China muse who can give you the honest, profound insights into Chinese culture and whatever category you're talking about. It's people who will tell you the truth and not something that you want to hear. So those people are very valuable. I've been lucky enough to cultivate friendships and partnerships with Chinese guys, most of which, if I make a comment about now, what if we do this and you get this look of like, no, it won't. It doesn't work like that in China. And you need those people. You need people to give you the honest answers, the straight up things, and pull no punches. Secondly, don't try and cut and paste established, developed marketing strategies, or especially not advertising campaigns for China. I've seen so many people come in from the West, with great arrogance, saying, this is it. We know this. We know soup, or we know energy drinks, or we've done it all before. You need to build in some flexibility, a lot of flexibility to accommodate local attitudes and values. And remember that your well-established brand in your home market can be something entirely new for China. So people need a bit of time to get to know what you do and what you stand for before you're hitting them with your highly developed, quite westernized advertising campaign or marketing strategy. People who rush in and try and cut and paste inevitably fail.
Stephen, this has been excellent. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you very, very much.
My pleasure.
Growing a company is hard. Doing it in a foreign market? Exponentially so. The best piece of advice I can give you is not to do it alone. When you start looking across the pond for further expansion possibilities, and I sincerely hope that you do, make sure you choose the right partners to do it with. My good friends at WPIC Marketing and Technologies have almost 20 years of experience helping brands, just like yours, enter China. I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Negotiation, and if you're interested in being a guest or want to connect with me or any of our team, please reach out to us at podcast@wpic.co. And be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. 再见。